Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Tonight with me, Cynthia Ng. The government has increased the expenditure ceiling for the 12 Malaysia Plan by 15 billion ringgit, bringing the total allocation to 415 billion ringgit. Tabling the plan's midterm review in Parliament today, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says the increase was necessary to enhance management quality and for more targeted subsidies.
Anjakan baru bermula dengan menoktahkan kemiskinan tegar, menyelesaikan masalah asas prasarana dan keperluan asas rakyat, termasuk perbaiki sekolah dan klinik taif, menjamin bekalan air bersih, serta meneraju ekonomi Islam.
The 12 Malaysia Plan was first tabled by former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob in 2021 with an allocation of 400 billion ringgit. Anwar said the government had spent 34% of the allocation for the first 2 years. He added that the midterm review would be realigned with the Madani economic policy, which aims to empower and accelerate the country's economy over 10 years. From now until 2025, it will focus on sustainable economic growth and equitable wealth distribution across all economic sectors. 10 new transportation projects have been included in the 12 Malaysia Plan, including the Penang Light Rail Transit LRT project. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says the government would continue to focus on the development of sustainable transport and logistics infrastructure. Other new transportation projects include the expansion of Bus Rapid Transit (BRT) and intra-city bus services, widening the North-South Highway from Yongpeng to Senai Utara in phases, as well as construction of the Sarawak-Sabah Link Road 2. Meanwhile, 800 houses will be constructed in Kuala Lumpur, Selangor and Penang under the pilot Madani Inclusive Housing Project to reach the 12 Malaysia Plan's target of building 500,000 units of affordable homes. A total of 1,200 health clinics nationwide would also be upgraded in the next 2 years, alongside the establishment of a mental health institute and a national aging action plan. At the same time, the government would look to introduce the National Geological Disaster Centre by the end of the year to improve the country's disaster response. It would also ban the export of rare earth minerals to prevent exploitation and loss of resources, while ensuring maximum returns for the country. With new strategies and initiatives introduced in the midterm review for the 12 Malaysia Plan, the question is if all these initiatives align with the reform agenda. Professor Dr. Muhammad Yusuf Sari gives his take on the matter.
The first one, I can see the introduction of a policy statement on the progressive wage model that going to be implemented by the government in, I think soon they will be included in the budget 2024. Also, I love to see that the government emphasize on carbon tax. This is something that would be something that interesting if Malaysia our effort towards sustainability. And another aspect that I can see in the document, the transformation of water industry. This is something the need for the country as well. But I think there are a few parts that missing. The first one is fiscal reform. Yes, the Prime Minister did mention about the capital tax, but actually when the government said in the midterm review, they're going to top up, I think, additional 15 billion. So meaning that this is the government commitment to put extra effort on the development of the economy. The question is now from where the money is come from. So if we on the other hand, we try to expand more what we have set in 2021. So at the same time, on the other side, we need to think about the revenue as well. In my view, GST or value-added tax should be in place soon, at least 2025, something like that. At least this is part of the reform. Second is on education. I did not see a specific chapter or specific bold suggestion from the government how to improve our quality of education. Believe or not, now we are having the crisis of education in Malaysia right now. So this is the time that we need to overhaul the whole education system from the early childhood up to the after retirement.
The government is open to reintroducing the Goods and Services Tax (GST) as part of its strategy to widen the tax revenue base. Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli, however, said that there are no plans for it at the moment.
Government will stick to that strategy, and we will be open to going through whatever ways we can to achieve that fiscal sustainability through a wider revenue base. Whether it's going to be capital gains tax, whether it's going to be GST, whether it's going to be any form of direct or indirect taxes, I prefer to keep that strategy open, and then we will decide on case-to-case basis, on year-to-year basis. So any announcements with regards to whatever new tax, whatever new revenue, that will be made by the finance minister from one budget announcements to another.
In March, Deputy Finance Minister Datuk Sri Ahmad Maslan said the net revenue for GST was 27.3 billion ringgit in 2015, when it was introduced to replace the Sales and Services Tax (SST). However, in 2019, the government gained 27 billion ringgit from SST, which was reintroduced by the Pakatan government in 2018.
Prisoners sentenced to death or to life imprisonment can begin applying to the federal court to review their sentences from tomorrow onwards. According to Law and Institutional Reform Minister Datuk Sri Azalina Othman Said, this comes as the revision of sentence of death and imprisonment for Natural Life Act 2023 or Act 847 comes into force on Tuesday. The enforcement of Act 847 came following the enforcement of the abolition of Mandatory Death Penalty Act 2023 on July 4th this year. Azalina said on August 30th, the Cabinet had agreed to the mechanism for court proceedings to revise the mandatory death penalties and life imprisonment after engagements with stakeholders. There are 1,020 prisoners in the country who had been imposed a mandatory death sentence and life imprisonment. Priority for reviews will take into consideration prisoners' age, health levels, and length of imprisonment period. Azalina highlighted that under Act 847, the federal court cannot review the conviction of those given the mandatory death sentence. However, the federal court will have the power to review the mandatory death sentences handed down upon conviction for offences such as murder, drug trafficking, firearm crimes before Act 847 came into force, even if their pardon application was previously rejected. We'll take a short break. Stay tuned for more.
Lisa Surihani, buah hati rakyat Malaysia, on demand.
I love you.
Dia menawan. Mahir dalam bidangnya.
Cantik ni mati bukan pasal lemah. Saya tak nak bawa boy jadi anak yatim.
Cekal menghadapi ujian.
Orang cuma nak kahwin dengan dia.
Pastinya disayangi ramai. Pesona lakonan mantap Lisa Surihani. Stream ke semua karyanya bila-bila masa, di mana jua.
Despite a fresh victory in the Pulai and Simpang Jeram by-elections, there are still rumblings of discontent among the government supporters stemming from the recent court decision involving UMNO President Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi. With PH winning a small majority in both of these by-elections, how can we make sense of the difference in support? Political analyst Professor Dr. Wong Chin Huat weighs in.
Supporters of Zahid DNAA argue that the Pulai by-election result shows that voters don't really mind. They will still give support to PH, presumably because of their fear for the Green Wave, on one hand. On the other hand, that this actually excite UMNO's base because they see that being in the unity governments gives UMNO this much of power that their presidents can get out of their case. If we combine the PH and BN votes in GE15, PH this round has lost more than 39,000 votes, while PN gained nearly 9,000 votes. So what it means is that you have 39,000 voters refuse to turn out this round. Someone claimed that the DNAA did not affect much of PH support. Then the votes brought by UMNO would be negligible, because most of the votes would have just come from PH base. On the other hand, if people want to claim that these actually have excited the UMNO base to come out and give support, then the PH loss would have been incredible. Because at the end of the day, we are looking at a much reduced base.
Despite attaining victories, Chin Huat urged the PHBN alliance to not rest on their laurels.
If the unity government take this as a blank check of support, that is based, the PH and UMNO base would back the government whenever it's moved. For example, a DNAA for Najib Razak before granting him pardon would likely cause a tsunami. And what is interesting is that on this coming Saturday, PN is organizing a rally against Zahid DNAA. So it seems that PN is taking the cue that it wants to move its appeal on reform rather than far-right narratives.
Over to global news. Rescuers are in a race against time to locate survivors who are trapped under rubble following what has been described as the deadliest earthquake to hit Morocco in 6 decades. More than 2,500 people have been killed, and that number is expected to rise. The earthquake, with a magnitude of 6.8, struck late on Friday night, approximately 72 kilometers southwest of Marrakesh. The historic Tin Mill Mosque in the Atlas Mountains has suffered significant damage, along with several other structures within the Marrakesh Old City, a World Heritage Site. However, the worst devastation has been reported in remote villages located high in the mountains. Now, these areas remain challenging to access due to blocked roads, making rescue efforts all the more difficult. Many residents are enduring a third night sleeping on the streets as they are afraid to return to their homes. The Moroccan government has reached out for assistance, and several countries have stepped forward to offer aid. Among them are Britain, Spain, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, all of whom have pledged support for the relief efforts. Thai Prime Minister Seta Thavisin announced a cash handout worth 560 billion baht or $15.7 billion in a bid to revive the economy. Seta also unveiled to Parliament a set of cabinet policies, including solutions for structural problems and hints at popular reforms to the constitution and military. Apart from distributing 10,000 baht to every citizen through a digital wallet, Seta's government would also defer debt payments, reduce energy prices, and make constitutional amendments. The Party leader said injecting capital into the economy will create spending and create opportunities for businesses and employment. However, the opposition Move Forward Party raised doubts regarding the source of the funds. Reviving Thailand's economy will be one of the biggest tasks for Seta, who became Prime Minister last month following prolonged uncertainty after the general elections in May. Thailand's economy is projected to grow 2.8% this year, below a previous forecast of 3.6%. That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching and good night.